How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be replacing the thermostat and temperature sensor on my 2003 Saab 9.3 2.0 Turbo. So recently I've been having a little bit of an issue with the temperature gauge. I'll go ahead and put a couple videos up on the screen right now, kind of what's been going on. You can see that the temperature gauge kind of just fluctuates a little bit. It never overheats, but just out of safety, I don't want this thermostat to actually go 100% bad or this temperature sensor to go 100% bad and then I get stranded somewhere because the car overheats or something goes wrong. So these are fairly cheap parts. I want to give a shout out to Saab Parts for sending these out. Make sure to check out Saab Parts for any of your Saab parts needs. You guys can go ahead and pause the video right here to get part numbers for these two. This of course is a temperature sensor, and then this of course is the thermostat. So with that being said, I've got the car up on a couple of 2x10s right now. So I'm going to go ahead and start by probably draining the coolant, just so that way when I take the thermostat and stuff out, coolant doesn't go everywhere. Better just to do it now than have it go everywhere on the engine. So with that being said, let's get started. So the drain plug on your radiator is going to be on the passenger side. You can see it right there in the light, just to the right of where the coolant is all coming out. So you're just going to twist that about 180 degrees, and of course have your pan and wait, because it clearly doesn't come out very fast. I mean, it's already been draining for about a minute, and that's all we've got in there so far. So now that the coolant is drained, we can come over here and kind of see what's going on. If you look down there past that hose, you can see the thermostat. Not a great view of it right now, but I'll put an arrow on the screen. I'm sure you guys can figure out exactly where it is. But first thing we're going to do is remove this heat shield here so we have a little bit more room. So the third piece of that heat shield might be a little bit tricky to see, but if you look on here, there's like this little pin almost that goes right on here, so you just kind of got to reach your hand under there and like push it out and then lift up, and it'll just come right off. So our thermostat is kind of tucked down in here at a weird angle where you can't really see all that well, but I can zoom in on it, I guess. So there's 3 bolts. There's the front 2 right there that you can see. Of course there's 2 hoses going into the housing for it, and then there's a 3rd bolt back there. Those are 10 millimeters. So I guess just grab your longest extension. Oh, I'm still zoomed in. I guess just grab your longest extension and take them out. Just because of the nature of where this is at, I can't really get an angle on it for you guys, but you see the 2 bolts, so I'm going to take those out now and catch up with you guys after that. Definitely might want to try using a magnet to get this bolt out, just to be safe, because if that falls, you're screwed. So the second one's at a little bit of a weird angle. Again, obviously you can't see what I'm doing, but I broke it loose, and I'm just going to hand loosen it the rest of the way because it's going to be faster. Second one out. Holy shit. That took me about an hour, literally an hour to get that out. I'll show you guys what I did here in a second. So this might be a little bit hard to explain how I got this out, just due to how I did it. So there's the 3rd bolt. You can see right through that little hole. This is kind of the only angle I can put it at, but you can see the hole for the bolt right through this hole, and that hole looks like it'd be long enough to fit an extension through, and it is, but only a 1/4 inch extension. So what I did is I have a screwdriver here, I have a small extension, I have a swivel extension, and then I have my 10 millimeter. So I put the 10 millimeter around down here, I got it on, and I got it basically sitting on the bolt like this. And I stuck, because this is too fat to fit through that hole, I stuck this in here and got it on there. And then I basically used these, because I didn't have enough strength to twist it like this, because it's obviously on there pretty tight. I used these, grabbed the end of the screwdriver and twisted, and it finally came loose. So I figure I'll go ahead and take a minute here to replace the temperature sensor, which should theoretically be easier than the thermostat. So if you look right here, you have your temperature sensor. This, of course, is a main cooling line that leads into the motor right here, so it would make sense for it to be right here. There's an electrical connector. Go ahead and unplug that. And then, of course, you have your sensor right there. Now, this is a little bit difficult of a spot to get out. Once you have that unplugged, there's no room to get a wrench or anything around here, but there is this hard line that runs like right in front of it. And I know that if we remove or take this bolt out to move the hard line, we can hopefully move it enough to where I can get a wrench or something around it. So let's go ahead and see if that works. This is just it's kind of hard to see because of all these wires right here, but this is just a 14 millimeter. You can't miss it, sitting right in front here. So I can now move this out of the way a little bit. So this is a little bit of a pain here just because of the nature of how it is and how little room you have, but you can fit a 19 millimeter barely over there. It's such a tight fit. I moved this out of the way still, and it was barely enough room given where the cutout for the engine block. There's just not really room. So maybe that's because this is an impact socket and it's a little bit bigger. So if you just have a normal deep socket 19, that might make it a little bit easier for you. But with that being said, we should be able to loosen it now. So there's new versus old. Same process for reinstalling it. Shouldn't be too difficult. One point I do want to mention, it should have this washer on it. Make sure this washer is on it when you go to install it. Alright, you've got the temperature sensor back in. You can go ahead, put this back in. Again, you might not need to remove this. Depends on if your socket will fit, I guess. Of course, don't forget to plug the sensor back in. Go ahead and put the engine cover back on now. So now if we come back over here to the thermostat, this is loose and I can kind of pull it out of the way, and then down in there you can see the thermostat. I'll put an arrow on the screen again. This is just such a hard angle to film at, so I'm going to grab the old thermostat out of there now and get ready to put the new one in. So here we have, of course, our old thermostat, and this is the new OEM one. Now it makes me wonder, you look, this one has a much thicker spring on it compared to this one. So maybe this one was replaced at some point and it just wasn't replaced with a factory one. So that's very likely. And again, your new one should come with this on here. So just make sure you have it on there before you install it. It's gonna go sitting in the car like this. Again, I can't really film it, unfortunately. It's just such a bad angle, so I'm going to put the new one in now. So new thermostat is in. Yes, this is actually how I got that third bolt out. By also taking the battery cover off, putting a towel down, and kind of like kneeling on the battery here, because then you can look straight down at it. So, this has proven to work best for me. Alright, so first the easy one is in. I know someone's going to mention in the comments that I shouldn't be complaining and I should be thankful it's not a water pump. And I know, because I've heard how much of a pain in the ass the water pumps are, so I'm very glad that it's not a water pump. So, yeah, but nonetheless, it's still a bit of a pain in the ass. I just really can't film any of this, which is really irritating. I've tried a million different camera angles and you just can't see anything. So I'm currently putting in the second bolt, and then I'll have the dreaded third bolt next, but I'm hoping I can use the same strategy again. It should be a little bit easier to put in than take out. So all three of them are hand tight now. One other thing I did want to mention while I was just thinking right now in deep thought as I was balls deep in my engine bay trying to screw that last one in, is that when you first, not when you lift the top off the thermostat housing, but when you lift off the thermostat itself, you're going to lose a lot more coolant. So I kind of figured draining my radiator would kind of drain the whole system, and I noticed that it didn't look like a ton of coolant that came out, so clearly it wasn't everything that came out. You gotta love the extra challenge of stuff being covered in coolant, so it makes it slippery. So I don't want to say last step, but I guess last step in terms of putting stuff back on is this heat shield. Now if you look kind of at the angle I'm looking at, you can line it up with that pin pretty easily. It just slides right in. First try doing that, that was very easy. You know, if this video was replacing the heat shield, it would have taken about 30 seconds, I bet. It is hand tightened. Now actually tightened. And I suppose the last thing I should probably do is put this back into place. There's just two little metal, or not tabs, plastic tabs I guess on the tank that slide in this holder. It's just like the V6. There we go. And of course you're going to want to make sure that your radiator is closed if you didn't do that already, because I almost forgot to do that. So go ahead and close that, and now ready to fill it up. And now, because I've spent so much money on coolant between my two cars over the past year, I'm going to be reusing this coolant. It's not very old, so I'm not concerned, and it looks perfectly fine. So here's a funnel. I have my big tub. Let's hope this works. I bet I'm spilling a bunch, but I can't see. Alright, so all that pretty much completely filled it up. Obviously I'm going to let it run, get up to temperature, and that level is going to definitely drop, because otherwise I'd be down probably like half a gallon of coolant if I just let it like this. So I'm going to go ahead and start the car now, let it kind of, I guess, get up to temperature, and we'll see that level slowly go down. Do not be alarmed, that should merely be coolant evaporating on the exhaust. Unless I really screwed something up, we should be fine. So in the meantime, you can see the level has already started to go down right around to where it should be, but the car's not even starting to get up to temperature yet. In the meantime though, I have my under tray to put back on because I pretty much had no bolts to hold it in, so I just took it off. But I was at the junkyard and got an ECU. That's another thing I should mention. Finally picked up an ECU for the project Saab at the junkyard, so pending coronavirus not being stupid anymore, hopefully this will have the project Saab running soon. But I have a bunch of these 8mm to put the under tray back on now that I finally have some. I also grabbed some buttons for the interior. My buttons weren't bad, but there were 4 of these that were a little bit messed up, so now they're all perfect. So I think I replaced 5, 6, 7, and 2, so they're all perfect now. You can see it's not even really off of cold yet. It's maybe starting to inch off of cold. So yeah, I'm gonna put that under tray on, and then I'll catch up with you guys when the car's up to temperature. So it got up to temperature and the level actually started to rise again. Like it went down to about here and it started to rise again. So I'm not sure why, as it came up to about here, and then I put the cap on, turned the car off, started again, now it's sunk back down to here. I feel like the car is still low on coolant, so I'm gonna let it idle a little bit more, maybe take it for a quick drive, but I mean, it's up to temperature. If anyone knows why it did that, I mean, you can see it's up to temperature where it should be. With that being said, that's how you replace the thermostat and the temperature sensor on a 2.0 turbo new generation Saab 9.3. I hope you guys found this video informative. If you have any tips for anyone else doing this job, leave them down below in the comments. That being said, I'm done for today, guys. I have a bunch of tools and some extra coolant to clean up. See y'all next time.
Bye.